Bonjour, Océane. I'm just here to give you a little review on adjectives and their agreement in French. This is just to prepare you for the sealed by literacy. We're just kind of going back to the basics just so that you can get a good review on different grammar concepts before you take the test. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, what are adjectives? They are types of speech that describe nouns. So, ils décrivent les noms. So here's some general rules about adjectives in French. They generally go behind the noun. So that is different when compared to English, where we say them before the noun always. So also French adjectives must agree in gender and number. So that's different from us. We just have the one adjective, and that's it. If the noun is feminine, add an E. If it's plural, add an S. That is the general rule for French adjectives. We're going to discuss in a minute how that can change depending on what the adjective ends in. But generally, you just add an E if it's feminine and an S if it is plural. So here are some examples. Le livre vert, the green book. It is a masculine singular noun, so it's just vert. Les cheveux longs, it's plural, so I added the S on long there. La montagne merveilleuse, the marvelous mountain. But then I have it contrasted with le glacier merveilleux, the marvelous glacier. It's the same adjective, but the ending is different because of the difference in gender. So that's one of the nouns or the adjectives that we're going to talk about in just a second, how those can change and are different than the E and the S rule. So la prof sympathique, le prof sympathique. If the adjective ends in an E, it's not going to change for the gender. It's going to stay the same for both genders. However, you still would add an S if it was plural. Then we have la femme française and l'homme français. Obviously, I added the E for that one and not for the homme, for le homme. And you can really hear the difference in that adjective, française and français. The E usually adds another syllable to the adjective. So you can really hear that when you're speaking. All right, so here's one of the charts I was talking about. So this is where it basically just shows that general rule of adding an E when it's feminine and an S when it is plural. So all of these adjectives, you just add an E when it's feminine and an S when it's plural, and obviously an ES if it's something that is feminine plural. So this would be something to go back to if you needed it, but for all of these, it's just add S or E. Then moving on to this one, this is one where it gets a little more complicated. Where I said before, adjectives ending in E, they do not change for the gender, but they would still change for if it's plural or not. So up there at the feminine plural, you just added the E, and same with the masculine, added the S, and with the masculine plural, just the S was added as well. Adjectives ending in S, you add another S and an E for the feminine, and then adjectives ending in X, you add an SE in place of the X for the feminine. Adjectives ending in N, you add two N's and an E. You don't add two N's, you add one N and an E, making two N's in the adjective. And I'm talking about the feminine form for all of these. And then adjectives ending in EUX, which was that merveilleuse example that I had up there, you add the EUSE in place of the EUX for those adjectives. And then for adjectives ending in ER, you add the accent grave, R, and then E for the feminine. And then adjectives ending in F, so sportif, it becomes sportive. You add the IVE. And then adjectives ending in C, you add HE. So blanc turns into blanche. And for all of these, the plural S remains the same. That does not change. It's just the difference in what it is when it's feminine that does change. So then moving on, another thing that's different is there are some adjectives that do go before the noun. French just has to be complicated like that. And those are beauty, age, goodness, and size nouns. So BAGS acronym is how you can remember that. So beauty, age, goodness, and size, some examples of those adjectives would be beau and belle, or nouveau and nouvelle for age, goodness for bon and bonne, and then size, grand, grande, petit, petite. Those are ones that would go before the noun. So, and like we do it in English, they would go before the noun. Here are some examples. J'ai un bon petit chien blanc. So the goodness and the size noun go before, adjective, go before the noun, and then the adjective that describes the color goes after. So I have a good small white dog. Then the next one, regarde les belles filles. Look at the beautiful girls. Beautiful describes beauty, so it goes before. And then so on and so forth with those. If it's an adjective that describes beauty, age, goodness, and size, it goes before, but it still agrees in gender and number. Regardless of the placement, it still agrees in gender and number. So those are just some tips to think of and remember when you are taking the seal by literacy and when you're completing these assignments. And just remember, they agree in gender and number, and they generally go behind the noun unless it's a beauty, age, goodness, or size adjective. All right, thanks for watching.